because ESPN's Bill Barnwell does a great job. He predicts 5 NFL teams that he is expecting to regress this season. So we're going to go over a few of these teams and see if we agree or disagree. And we're going to start with your Tennessee Titans, Chelsa, who went 12-5 last season at BetMGM. Their win total was set at 9.5. Now, the over is plus 125, juice to the under at minus 150. There are a few reasons why Bill Barnwell thinks that the Titans will underachieve or regress this season, however you want to look at it. And one of the reasons is he says they were unsustainably good in games decided by 7 points or fewer, when 6-2 in 2021, 7-2 a year earlier in 2020. I guess if you wanted to spin that differently, you could say this is not necessarily an explosive Titans team. They're a good clutch team. They're a more physical team, better in the fourth quarter, so they pull out these close games. He's saying this is unsustainable. What say you, Titans fan?
Well, gonna poke a few holes in that because number one, Derrick Henry only played in 8 games last season. And number two, Julio Jones and A.J. Brown were very rarely on the field together as well. Julio Jones accounted for 1 touchdown. So people are saying, well, they lost Julio Jones. Julio Jones barely played. And if you're a Titans fan or if you watch Titans games, you know that. So I don't think that they're going to be necessarily as bad as people think just because of some of the reasons that people are listing. It's still a good defense. They have one of the better pass rushers that I feel like nobody talks about. One of the only teams in the NFL that had 3 guys that had, I think, 5 or 6 sacks apiece. So Mike Vrabel does one thing very well. He instills physicality and the mindset in his team that they're good when nobody expects it. Last season, they were 6-2 straight up and against the number when getting points. That's right. Not only covering, but winning those games outright. So I think the problem for the Titans is really their offensive line. That is the key weakness for the Titans. They've really had trouble getting some protection for Ryan Tannehill. And that's the problem. People were saying that he had the yips late in the season because he was so afraid of getting hit on his blind side. So I think there are problems with the Titans. I'm not sure if I'm buying into all of the hype around the Colts and saying, well, the Titans don't have a chance. I think the Titans do have a chance. We saw it last year. They had a chance every time people said they didn't have a chance. So I think for that reason, I'm not ready to bet against the Titans just yet.
I don't know if I'd fade them, but I really do like the Colts a lot. I understand why people are on the Colts, and I think that Matt Ryan, rejuvenated is a strong word because he's not going to be the same quarterback he was when he won the MVP, 6 years ago now, 7 years ago now? No, 6 years. But I do think he is still a massive upgrade because he's been playing with such terrible talent in Atlanta. He is such an upgrade over Carson Wentz because of the talent around him. But are you worried about Derrick Henry? And I know that, yes, he was injured for much of last season. We have seen his yards per carry drop, and he has been an absolute beast, such a stud from high school to Alabama to the NFL. But at some point, you can only take so much physical punishment, Chelsa. How much does that factor into what you think the Titans will do this season? I know that you think they're going to be better than people think, but how much more can Derrick Henry take before he starts what is going to be some sort of regression at some point?
Well, obviously, I don't think he's going to rush for 2,000 yards because that's the thing. The bar is set so high for Derrick Henry that if he doesn't have this monumental season, people are saying, well, that was a failure. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. I still think he can be a very productive running back. If you look at him, he is an outlier when it comes to running back just because he is so big. He is not a small guy that relies on quickness. He's a guy that relies on physicality. So if he can get past that initial line of scrimmage, he is still a huge mismatch for cornerbacks. You've seen how big he is, how tall he is. My goodness. So I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't rush for 2,000 yards. But I mean, it's the same thing with guys like Cooper Kupp. It's just when you have that great of a season, the bar is set so high. So don't expect to have like a massive season for Derrick Henry. But I'm not going to be stupid. I'm not going to sit here and say, well, Derrick Henry sucks now. No, don't do that to the king. How dare you?
Don't disrespect the king. Let's go to the
Derrick
NFC. Yeah. The Packers went 13-4 last season. Their win total at BetMGM 11.5. Overs plus 110, under minus 140. A little bit surprising. And one of the reasons Barnwell uses in his explanation as to why he expects the Packers to regress is that they have dropped from one of the best red zone offenses to 19th in points per red zone trip. He says, quote, "I'm trusting the numbers again because I'm willing to get hurt again." The Packers will be very good in 2022, but like I said a year ago, I would expect very good to look more like 11-6 than 13-4. I happen to agree completely here just because I really believe the Packers are going to miss Davante Adams in a big way. Yes, Aaron Rodgers makes everyone better, but that division will be, I think, a touch more competitive, and the Packers were just so exceptional last year. There's a reason why this win total set at 11.5 is way juiced to the under at minus 140. I agree with Barnwell here.
I think they do take a step back, and I don't think that they are going to be Super Bowl contenders per se, but we've seen this team be really good in the regular season. They've won 13 games each of the last 3 seasons, every single year since installing Matt LaFleur as the head coach. So I think this will still be a good regular season team. I think Aaron Rodgers, the reigning 2-time MVP, will have enough juice to get this offense going, at least to win games. Maybe we don't see huge shootout games where they're scoring, 41 points, something like that, but it's still a good defense. It is a top 10 unit on the defense. They have a great backfield when it comes to running the football with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. So it's still a pretty good, complete team. I'm not ready to fade the Packers just yet. This is a pretty high win total, but I don't know. Do you think Davante Adams means that much to the offense?
Yes, I absolutely do. And look who's replacing him. Alan Lazard, okay. Randall Cobb's been around forever. They're relying on a couple of these rookies who have had the dropsies during practice in the preseason. We've already heard Aaron Rodgers complain about it, so he'll make them better because he's Aaron Rodgers, but certainly having a guy like Davante Adams is a game changer, so I think it matters in a big way. Now, coming up in just a few minutes, Chelsa, there are plenty of ways to bet baseball, but if you're into K-props, we have got the guest for you. We're going to have our weekly visit with the prop queen, Ariel Epstein. She's Chelsa Messenger. I'm Michael Jenkins, and let's go into the Pittsburgh Steelers now, 9-7-1 last season. Their BetMGM win total set at 7.5. Over is minus 105. Under is minus 115. So essentially, this is a coin flip. Let me say it again for the millionth time. Did you know that Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season in Pittsburgh? You may have heard that. Bill Barnwell says because this team was 7-1-1 in games decided by 7 points or fewer, and they have a new quarterback, they will regress. I'm not quite so sure. I'm a big believer in Mike Tomlin, but I know everyone says that.
I think people are seeing the big name at quarterback walk away in Ben Roethlisberger, but how good was he for that offense? I think he probably is going to be making better decisions than Mitch Trubisky, maybe, because that's the sabotage factor when you have a new quarterback that's not proven, is that they can single-handedly cost you games, but it's not like this offense was something to write home about last season, and they still got in the postseason, despite being one of the most pedestrian pass offenses in the entire NFL. It seemed like Big Ben was averaging 2.5 yards per pass. So I think it's not going to be as big of a drop-off as people might expect. But I think the problem is their schedule is incredibly tough. The Steelers are going to have to win some games that they're not supposed to win in order to hit this win total. So I think that's the problem. It's just that they play in a tough division and their schedule is incredibly tough. So maybe it's the first season that Mike Tomlin doesn't, win all those games and have a winning season, but I'm not ready to buy into that.
I want to bring in Double D for a second and ask him about quarterback. Double D, you follow the Steelers, and what's interesting to me is that Kenny Pickett is the favorite to win NFL Rookie of the Year at BetMGM, and I believe the last time I checked, he was 8-1 to win it, but you don't think he's going to start?
No, I don't. I think you look at the organization. The organization is one of the smartest organizations in the NFL. I believe, from everything that I've heard, they're going to ride with Mitchell Trubisky unless the wheels fall off the bus and or injury.
So fascinating, because I believe the Steelers when they say that, but then you look at the odds And how can Kenny Pickett be the favorite if he's not going to play as many games as you might expect, Chelsea? I don't have the answer. I don't know.
I don't know if he has to play all the games in order to get Rookie of the Year. Like, I just think that quarterbacks have such a leg up in the competition that maybe he doesn't have to play all the games. I do think that they roll with Mitch Trubisky from the start, though.
Yeah, that's the big question. If they do, how many games does he play before he gives way to Kenny Pickett?